everybody, and welcome back to My Boss is a Theater Kid. I am so excited. It's been a while since I've been here in Zeem Studios in Times Square, but I have two friends with me today, Dylan and Roger from the Rap Beers podcast. They are a film reviewing podcast, and they work in film, but also have 9-to-5 corporate jobs, so they were the perfect people to collab with in Zeem Studios. Welcome on.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you
so
much for coming.
Yeah.
I'm so excited. Their thing for their podcast is that they always have beers with them. Why is that? Tell me about it.
We drink.
We're functioning alcoholics. Is the
we drink a beer and talk about film, TV for every episode.
We've been making films together for almost 10 years now, and so we would celebrate each wrapping of said film with just some wrap beers and just, crack open a couple cold ones and celebrate accomplishing something.
What a great way to find that name. Well, cheers to the
Yes.
pod.
Cheers.
Thanks for coming on.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having us.
Zeem, thank you for having us.
Thank you, Zeem.
Thank you, Zeem.
But I guess I just want to start off and ask you guys about your backgrounds, how you guys got into film, and what you guys are kind of up to now.
I grew up in New York City. I grew up in Brooklyn, shout out Bay Ridge. My intro to the film industry, my uncle Richie was a sound mixer.
Cool.
So he, his second job ever was Friday the 13th, like the original one.
No way.
Yeah, and he just completely stumbled upon that job, this job of sound mixing. He stumbled upon it completely by accident because guys were filming outside of his bar, and he asked them what they were doing, and the guy showed him how to be a sound mixer. And the second job he got was Friday the 13th.
Wow.
Which is that, and
Crazy
that just
second
started
job.
his entire journey. And he worked on Law and Order, but so he worked in the film industry, and so I would visit him on set. And so that was kind of like my introduction into the fact that, the film industry is like a career that people actually have.
Totally.
So that was kind of like what spawned it. And then I think just like everybody else, you go to the movies and you just there's nothing better than watching a movie or watching TV. And so I kind of always had the secret intuition of wanting to be an actor specifically, not even just be a behind the scenes person. And I didn't really get into that until later in college because, I think admittedly I was a little scared, and you're told have the backup plan, and I didn't do it in high school and all that, and so I just went and got my degree. But then I met Roger in my senior year of college, and he told me that he wanted to be a screenwriter, and he was just a kid from Virginia, and so us meeting together kind of spawned our mutual dream that we were going to go for it together, and then here we are.
Here we are, yeah. So
Amazing.
Yeah. So I'm originally from Virginia, as you mentioned. Came here to New York by way of St. Petersburg, Tampa, Florida.
Okay.
And yeah, my whole inspiration actually was from the television show Entourage.
Okay.
I was in high school.
Very cool.
Well, it'll make sense. I very vividly remember. It was the day before daylight savings time. Literally, time went you got an hour back. So it was November or whatever. And Entourage was showing on HBO, and I stayed up and binge watched an entire season. Yeah, that was kind of the main inspiration of oh wow, film, TV, it's an actual business. Hollywood is a business. It's not just celebrity and entertainment and this whole facade of the impossible.
Right.
So I started getting into writing a lot, and that was what led me to studying broadcast journalism in college. So I kind of created my own little hybrid course, if you will, where I was doing print journalism and broadcast journalism. So I was learning how to write while also learning how to edit and shoot stuff and do all of that. And then me and him, we met. We started doing films together, short films.
Yeah.
And moved up to New York after the pandemic. And
Amazing. Wait, where'd you guys go to school?
oh, we went to West Virginia University.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
No way.
WVU.
Yeah.
Do you think being kind of... Oh, I just hit the beer on the microphone. Sorry, Ronaldo.
Classic hazard on our podcast.
Do you think going to school, not in a big city, helped or hindered you guys getting into film? I feel like it can be isolated. But,
Right.
Yeah, I mean, our school was very interesting because even though we went to, people hear, oh, you went to school in West Virginia, we went to a very big school.
Yeah.
It was 30,000 people. The whole reason that I kind of had the feeling that I could, or that I wanted to really do this, I took an acting class my junior year, and just to see if I liked it, even though I knew I would, and I did. But then when I met him, he was there's a film club here. and they're getting ready to shoot like their spring short film. I think you should audition. And I ended up auditioning, and I got the lead in it. And then we ended up filming it like at like our house that we were living at. And I was just like, yeah, I could do this for the rest of my life.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, so it was just like really fun, and you know, I think so different, and yeah, I think because you are so isolated from it, I think it's different if you know if you went to school in like if you went to like NYU or something, where or like in LA where it's like so much like the focus of you being there. I think just the fact that we were like college kids who just really loved movies and just were doing it strictly out of passion, I think was very informative to us that like, okay, if we enjoy doing this here, then we should at least give a real go at it. And also being that theater is a big thing for you, even though I didn't do theater growing up. Growing up in New York, I have two parents, especially my mom, who were big theater fans and advocates, and who would take us to go see shows all the time. And so that was another informative thing of like, oh, these are like actors are like human beings who like do this for a career. And
I think too with film, I think theater is different because you see the actual people on stage, and you can go up to them at the stage door afterwards, and it's I don't know. Sometimes film actors don't seem like real people because they're behind a screen, and especially when you're growing up, before we had social media, before we all had all these behind the scenes looks. Like, I don't know. I feel like growing up, I didn't know the business of film. I didn't know that you could be a sound mixer, or I didn't know what that was. You know, I didn't know that there were a million camera people. I didn't know that there were what a director was. You know, like you don't realize how many jobs there are behind the scenes until you find yourself on a college movie set and you're like, oh, I could do this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, totally.
Well, I want to ask because I was also a journalism major, or I went to grad school for journalism, so very into that. I feel like so many journalism kids end up in the film industry. Why do you think that is, and what did studying journalism teach you about screenwriting, and what were those transferable skills?
Yeah, well, to like the whole point of going to a bigger school that was kind of not in LA or New York, we didn't have a film program at WVU. There was just a film club, and you could take like a summer course that was like film specific, but there wasn't like a like major you could major in like film studies.
Yeah.
So I kind of had to like makeshift.
Which is crazy to me.
Yeah, it was pretty wild.
Because it's a big school.
It was a huge school with like a whole media department, and
no film, no TV.
We had it was more like newsroom based because we had a lot of alumni who would go on to be like news broadcasts and like work in newsrooms. So yeah, we had like an equipment room though, so I could rent out whatever gear I wanted. So that was kind of how I learned how to use a camera. And then part of like my curriculum was you got to learn how to edit your stuff. You got to learn how to like do your interviews. You got to learn how to record your interviews. You got to so everything from like the actual technical aspect I had to learn as far as the broadcast journalism perspective.
Right.
Which was cool because I liked that. And then taking that and using it and being like, wait, I can transfer this to like film specifically. Like I can write a screenplay, which I don't know how to do, but I can kind of teach myself that.
Right.
Like I can learn how to do that, and I'm literally learning as part of my coursework how to edit, how to shoot, how to compose a shot and like do all that stuff. So I just took everything I was learning and was like, all right, I'm gonna just make this work how I want it to work.
Right.
And that was how I kind of made my own little, I guess, crash course of indie filmmaking. By just kind of like using what I had available as far as like a resource while I was in school. So
and then you guys ended up creating some films yourselves.
Believe it or not, I'm a year older than you.
Something like that.
Yeah, so
believe
like,
it or not.
Year and change.
Yeah, so like grade wise, I'm a year ahead of him, but he graduated a year before me from college.
Okay.
I'm
like doing the math.
Yeah, so I say that because he had come back to New York, and I really wanted to do a film of just like something that me and him produced, wrote together, and like we did. So he had this short story that he had wrote, and I was like, if you ever want to do this like as a short film, I think it would make a really cool short film. So he had graduated. I had some time where I was like, let me come up to New York. Let's do like a weekend where we shoot this. And that was like our first film. And then from then on, like his mom was like, you guys got to do this all the time. And that was how we started being like, all right, yeah, we're just going to make a film at least once a year. Like that's our thing.
Oh, wow. That's great.
Yeah.
So
2016 was the first year, and we
2016,
had 8 shorts.
I think we've done about 8 shorts.
Wow.
Yeah. So I mean, we've just always been of the mindset of like, if no one's gonna hire us or if we're not, if we're not going to be given opportunities, we're going to make opportunities for ourselves.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, and like every director, actor, like everybody says how easy it is, or rather not easy, but how accessible it is now versus, back in the day, like you had to go to film school to get that equipment. It's
Right.
like we all have
Right.
phones with cameras that are better than the cameras that they had even back then. And so
Right, we're all editing every day on TikTok.
Right,
We're all
exactly.
like,
Yeah,
you're
exactly.
learning
So
those
it's-
basic.
yeah, so it's just like do the stuff that you want to see, like make the stuff that
Right.
you want to see, and yeah, that's always just been our mindset.
Do you think like there are more benefits to that we have like film cameras in our pockets now? Like we have so much at our readily available. I don't know. I feel like people are still reluctant to make things, or like
I think it's both a blessing and a curse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Primarily because like the blessing of it is just anybody, can be Hawk Tua. Like or anybody. I'm just saying. I'm just using
If
that.
only, brother.
I'm just
Yeah.
using that.
If only.
And,
Let's
well,
go
I'm
out
using
on
that
the
in the
street.
sense of like somebody had a camera on the street and
Right.
like created a channel and they were trying to go viral. And there you go. You have now, another sensation, and like that could be anybody, like the
Right.
person behind the camera or the person in front of the camera. So, I think that's the blessing of it is like it really does kind of create a blueprint for independent creators having more control and power than ever before when it comes to like specifically art, like visual art.
right.
So I do think that's awesome, but then like the curse of it is you have people like us who really want to do it from a cinematic perspective.
Yes, and the
really
storytelling.
and really
Right.
value like the real storytelling and like the true
Traditional
essence.
techniques
Right.
and the classics.
And paying homage to stuff that inspire us, but that's hard to sell. That's hard to get across the
Yeah,
just
the algorithm
typical.
doesn't really highlight
Yes.
little videos that pay homage to 1940s noir films. It's
And
like
it's so sad.
it is
It's
sad.
tough. It's a little tough.
I'm
Yeah.
like, what can we do to change it? That's been one of my questions that I want to answer with this podcast, or not answer, because who has the answer to that? But
Right.
I feel like for every single art medium now, it's so hard because we have social media, which is such a blessing and like has provided so much opportunity. But it's like the people who've been studying art who want to pay homage to the past, like where do those people fit in? Like I don't know. It's
Yeah.
really hard.
Yeah, it's hard because
So,
also
yeah,
too
you
like
can
the
answer that.
algorithm is gonna the algorithm and just social media is just all about like, are you gonna grab me in the first 5 seconds?
Right.
And if you're gonna grab me in the first 5 seconds, then the lights will come on and
Lights.
And there we go. We
There we
got the lights.
we got
Cheers
lights.
to the lights.
We got the
Cheers to the
lights.
lights.
Yeah, but it has its challenges, but I think ultimately
Right.
at the end of the day, of like, if you do the thing that you want to do in terms of the content or whatever it is that you're making, if you're doing it with the intent of like, I'm not trying to be famous or I'm not trying to be like the next big viral star. It's like I just want to do something that I think I would like to see.
Right.
Like Jordan Peele always talks about like every movie I make, I want it to be the movie that I've always wanted to see. And so I just think that's a great mindset for any like creator out there is like, what's the thing that you want to see? And then
Yeah,
that's
I
just how
love
your
that.
voice is gonna break through.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay, so now tell me about Rap Beers and how you guys started that. Why you started that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why is a great question.
I keep calling it that, the podcast.
The podcast.
Podcast. So we started it. I think we were living together. So first 3 years I moved up here. I lived with Dylan. We lived together. We always had like we would come back from a movie and just start talking about it, like what we felt, and like we typically would have a beer while we talked about it. And I think this was also around the same time that Dylan really was getting into stand-up comedy or wanting to do stand-up comedy.
Ooh.
But he wasn't doing
Dabbling.
yeah, but he wasn't doing open mics, and I really wanted him to do open mics because I was like, I really want to help you prepare for it. Like,
Totally.
yeah, like,
Yeah.
I want to be your muse.
I want every joke to be about me.
Yeah, please. So
And then I would go to open mics and they'd be like, "Who is Roger?"
Yeah,
Who is this-
literally.
who is
Who
this
is
person?
Roger?
well, me like
Yeah.
I can't perform comedy, but like I feel pretty confident I could write it. Like I could help him like write
yeah.
like jokes, and like we could find a happy medium
That's a
of
perfect
you
duo,
know,
right.
his voice.
Right.
So he wasn't doing stand up, and I was like, all right, well, let's put mics in front of us. Let's talk about movies that we talk about movies and TV all the time, and you can use it as a way to just practice material. And just because off the cuff he was very witty, very funny, but I was like, only I know that because I live with you. Like you got to share
Right,
with
it's
everybody.
like the best friend. Like you guys are cracking up, and
Right.
you're like, is
Yeah.
anyone else gonna think this is funny too?
No, I know
Yeah,
people think
exactly.
it's funny.
Yeah,
That's the thing. It's like
exactly.
I'm like, but like you got to get out of our friend circle.
Right.
So that was kind of like I think the main initiative behind the Rap Beers. We had another podcast that we had started about a year before that, where we were
Okay.
just like listing our top 100 movies or
top
something
100
like that.
movies. Yeah, it was like we had like kind of an idea and a concept because like at that time I just felt like if you're gonna start a podcast, you either already have to have an audience,
Right.
or you have to have some sort of like original idea to bring people into it.
100%.
And I don't know, like we were kind of just doing that, and it just felt a little forced, and it didn't feel organic, or even it just didn't even really feel like us. And then.
Right.
He was wanting to help me kind of like break out of my shell and like, kind of, have a podcast that can kind of like help source any material if I want to do stand up.
Yeah.
But also it was like, I realized in the moment that like what makes our podcast special is that it's us.
Right.
And like,
Yeah.
that's, if anyone's going to tune in to watch, because there's 100 podcasts you can go to and listen to about movies or TV. Like we're not, we're not reinventing the wheel here.
Right.
Yeah. But what we're doing different is that it's us. And so if we just do, like he was saying, like we come home and watch we just saw a movie, we come home, we drink a beer, we hang out, we talk about it. I was like, this should be the podcast. Like if we put a microphone in front of us and, a camera, like I think people would want to watch that.
Totally.
And so,
Yeah.
and that was like almost 3 years ago. And,
Literally started in his bedroom.
In my bedroom,
That
yeah.
was
Oh my
our
gosh, I love it.
first.
That's like the dream
Yeah.
podcast story. And now you guys are here.
Now we're
and
here.
now we're here on
yeah.
6th
Yes.
Avenue. Yeah.
So
Yes.
funny story about that.
Yeah.
When we did our first episode here at Zeem, I hope you're listening to this. Our first, we walked in and Dylan was like in shock. He
My
was like,
jaw was on.
We are literally like on display, and
No,
then
literally, people like waving through the windows.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then we left.
Yeah, Dear Evan
and
Hansen style,
Yes,
Yeah. forgive
Theater
me.
kids are gonna get that.
The
joke.
theater kids are gonna get it.
Yeah,
See,
there
I
you
know
go.
your audience.
Yeah, exactly. So tell me more about how your film background, like your directing, producing, writing background, like influences now the podcast that you guys have and like what you guys talk about weekly.
Yeah, I
Because
mean-
it's very different than the average Joe going to the movie theater saying, "Oh, I love it, I hate it." Like you guys know what goes behind how things are made. You guys understand how it works, and I think that's super different watching.
Yeah, I mean, thank you. And
Yeah,
yeah,
we really
we always
appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing for us is that we never wanted it to be like a Siskel and Ebert type of show
Yeah.
where it's like we're critics, criticizing or critiquing or analyzing every single like thing about a movie and like pinpointing its flaws or anything like that. Because that's like a very specific type of thing that you have to go to school for. It takes a long time to to kind of develop that voice.
Right.
I think for us, like we always wanted to treat it as like, because our friends say this who watch our podcast, which is very, very nice of them. They feel like they're just hanging out with us and they're just hearing us talk about a movie that maybe that we just watched or whatever, and it just feels very like conversational and feels very like just natural and down to earth. Like we're not talking down on anybody or anything like that. I mean, unless there's a movie that we have strong opinions about, which we do. But also because I come from it from an acting perspective. Like whenever I watch a movie or a TV show, that's usually the thing that jumps out to me is the acting.
Interesting.
Whereas him being a writer and director, that's the direction and and the writing is like the thing that really pops off to him. And so we kind of have this nice yin and yang where he can kind of talk about like what about a script really spoke to him and kind of the the pacing of it and just the narrative story, and like I can really talk about the actors in it and the work that they're doing and the nuances in their work that I really caught on to because our mutual friend, the great Allie Edwards, and I went to acting school together, and
Oh,
so
no way. I
Yeah.
didn't
yeah,
know that.
so that's
Yeah.
kind of our Zeem
Oh,
tie.
Yeah, that's our
Awesome.
Zeem hookup right there. Yeah.
shout out Allie.
Shout out Allie.
Yeah.
And so like I'm certainly no acting expert by any stretch of the imagination, but it's something I've been honing as a craft for a long time, and so
Yeah.
I just have my perspective and opinion of it. And I think also too, like we for the most part like don't ever try to watch something that we know we're gonna hate and that we're just
Right.
gonna like bash for the sake of bashing. Like we're luckily not at a point in our career where we have to see every single thing whether we know we're gonna like it or not. So
Right.
we're pretty selective in the things that we watch because we want to highlight things that maybe people who are watching at home maybe haven't seen. And like the best compliment that we get when we link up with people is like, hey, I saw your podcast and you talked about this movie that I never would have seen, and I saw it and I loved it. And I was like, that's like the best. That's like crack to me. Is like when someone says, I watched this movie that I wouldn't have seen otherwise and I really enjoyed it. So, because that's all I'm trying to do is just put my friends on to good movies. So.
Yeah, and we like, you know, we both enjoy film, TV, and like the art of storytelling and all that stuff, but like.
And we know it's really hard to do.
Yeah.
It's so hard.
And we're from different backgrounds. Like, you know, I like stuff that he may not like. He likes stuff that I may not like. And we can talk about it like behind closed doors and have like a real discussion. And he can teach me something I might not know, and vice versa. Like there's been a lot of just like experiences, especially like living under the same roof, which is why I'm very thankful that, you know, we were able to kind of make all this come together like in New York City. Like we've been able to really kind of, I think, amplify just like our creative and, you know, just personal friendship by being able to like be under the same roof and take in each other's like opinions more versus it just being like, hey, you should do this. And then I'm like, I didn't like that, but why should I like it? And it's like a more drawn out process versus like being in it together. Like we can experience it together and talk about it like in real time, which is, I think, a lot more beneficial as to why we kind of have more of a cohesive mindset when it comes to this stuff.
I feel like people are so quick to jump to, like, especially on TikTok. I was talking about TikTok. But, I mean, people are so quick to jump of being like, well, I hated this because blah, 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 blah. And it's like, okay, like, valid opinion if you hated it. But
you know, it's so funny, though, speaking of TikTok and that dynamic. So we released a video a few years ago. It was in response to a film that came out called Beau is Afraid.
Okay.
Did you hear about this film?
I did not see it, no.
Most people didn't. It was a movie with Joaquin Phoenix. It was directed by Ari Aster, who did like Hereditary and Midsommar. Very polarizing film. And we literally, the whole video is us saying whether we loved it or hated it. And we counted 1, 2, 3, and we both said hated it. And that was the clip. That was the whole video. Yeah. No nuance, no like explanation or anything. Literally just love it, hate it, hate it. And it got like 90,000 views.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like by far the most viral thing we've ever done. And it just goes to show that like, and you know, we even did a video where we were talking about the nuances that we didn't talk about and how messed up the algorithm is that it doesn't even recognize that, and it got like 200 views.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
So it's just like it just goes to show that like what feeds our algorithms and what feeds our social media feeds is just jumping on the bandwagon of I love this thing, I hate this thing.
Yeah.
And yet there's so much more that goes into
There's so much more.
whether you do love something or whether you do hate something. But I think the people who spent many months and in some cases years working on it at least deserve to hear the reasons that you did love it or the reasons that you didn't love
100%.
it.
And
So,
sometimes you can love it because you hate the way it makes you feel or or something of that sort.
And that was honestly
the biggest compliment ever. Like, but
and that was honestly the thing with Beau is Afraid was
Yeah.
like, because it's like technically speaking, it's incredibly well made, and Joaquin Phoenix did an incredible job acting in it. I just felt terrible watching it, and I hated what it was doing to me.
And it's like 3.5 hours long.
When it makes you feel something and want to say something and want to go do something because of it. And that's successful in my
Exactly,
opinion.
So even though I hated it, I respected the shit out of it
100%.
because it did something that like 90% of the stuff I watch doesn't do, which is actually like cause a very strong emotion in me.
Yes.
So I'm sorry, Ari
get
Aster.
the population to recognize that? How do we get the average Joe on the street that just goes into the movies and knows nothing about art to recognize that you can hate something, but it's because it's so beautifully well made and so top notch and so
Right.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just got to take a step back.
Yeah.
Sure.
Maybe we're all just dramatic artists. I don't know.
Maybe
That
Probably.
too. No, that's also fair.
But here's another thing. What do you guys think makes a good film and TV and art in general?
Man, it's a really good question.
Yeah.
I think for me, it's just like, I think if there's any sort of like, just like clear intention behind the story that's being told, and I think you know, like we always talk about, like tone is such an important thing with film and television as well.
What do you mean by that for some of our listeners that might not?
Just kind of like the general vibe that you get when you're watching something, whether it's like the shots that you're seeing, how it's colored, the score that's behind it, just like the general sense that you're feeling. Like, I think kind of a perfect example, at least it's just the one that I thought of, is like, you know, there was a show that came out last year, Ripley, which was based on the talented Mr. Ripley. And there was a movie in the 90s with Matt Damon and Jude Law and Gwyneth Paltrow. I love that movie. It's one of my favorite movies. It's so beautifully shot, and it's in like this gorgeous kind of like gold tone, and just like everybody's young and beautiful, and they're in Italy, and it's just like, it's sun-soaked, and you just like,
Beautiful to watch.
it's just beautiful to watch, and you just
Yeah.
love being there. And then like something crazy happens, because it's a murder mystery, and so something crazy happens that you didn't see, and then there's like, it takes all these twists and turns, and then fast forward 25 years later, and it's a mini series with Andrew Scott, and it's based on the same source material. It's like basically beat by beat, almost the same thing that happens. So there were some surprises, and like the way it was told was different, but for the most part, it felt totally different because it was shot in black and white.
Oh, interesting.
A lot of it, because, you know, it's a stretched out limited series, it's 8 hours versus 2. They took there are at least half-hour stretches where nobody's talking,
Oh, wow.
and it just totally set like a tone of like, just like kind of like uncomfortability. And it's just so crazy how you can take the same source material based on the exact same book and create two completely separate pieces of art.
Yeah.
But both
Yeah.
incredibly masterfully done, and like everybody involved in each of those things just did such a phenomenal job, and you can appreciate both as own separate pieces of art, even though it has the same source material.
Okay, so I saw you guys post a reel on Instagram talking about ideas. How can there be so many new ideas for films? Are there even new ideas for films and art in general? Like, Broadway is going through this right now. Like, it's just revival after revival, or just like taking a book or a TV show and turning it into a show. And I think, are there new ideas? Has everything been done? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been a question that's always like on Hollywood's mind.
Right.
Like, I just started watching The Studio, which is the new Seth Rogen show on Apple TV,
Oh.
which is really good, especially if you're, you know, in the biz, or
Right.
you're just a big Hollywood fan.
Like the
'cause-
new Entourage, maybe.
Oh, okay,
in a
nice.
way. In a way.
I'll have to watch.
The thing I like about the show, though, is that it does kind of give you an insider's look into that question that we always ask, is like, why aren't studios doing like what they did in like the 70s, where they're like
Right.
really giving like the creatives full control? And ultimately, at the end of the day, like, it's show business. Like,
Right.
they are trying to make money. And unfortunately, people just aren't coming to the movie theaters in the same way that they used to, for a variety of reasons. Like, you know, with COVID, like, everybody just, and with streaming, like, everybody just wants to sit at home and watch a movie. They don't want to spend
Right.
$25 just on a ticket, and then maybe $100 total if they're buying multiple tickets and concessions, and then they have to wait. Like, then it's like the movie's 2.5 hours, and there's 30 minutes of previews, and, you know, there's somebody's phone is going off next to them. Like, they don't want to
There's
deal
a
with.
baby crying.
Yeah, there's a baby crying. They want to be able to go to the bathroom if there's
Right.
a 3-hour movie without an intermission. Like,
Yeah.
so people just got very used to like the comfortness of their own home. And
Yeah.
I think, unfortunately, too, is like with the streaming, and, you know, we mentioned this on our last podcast, but like a lot of studios would take chances because they would get the money back from like DVD sales, and like now DVDs are kind of like an obsolete thing. I
Yeah.
mean, there is a physical media, I think, resurgence that people are taking part in, but it's not the
Right.
same thing. Like, they're buying movies that came out, you know, X amount of years ago versus ones that are coming out now, and so
I miss the DVD days.
I know, I
Me
love.
too.
I miss going to
Blockbuster was
Blockbuster. Yes.
That's the reason I fell in love with movies. I grew up
was
2
so
blocks
much
away from a
fun.
Blockbuster,
Yeah.
and I used to just walk up and down the aisles and just look at all the
Aw.
covers and just be like, "What is this?" and then never see it. But
Yeah.
It was the best. Bring me back to Blockbuster.
bring me
Oh,
back.
yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I think also.
I think there's still one left
Make a
in
trend.
Alaska.
Hashtag bring back Blockbuster.
Bring back.
Yeah, we need-
hashtag
yeah,
bring
There's
back
one in
Blockbuster.
Alaska, really?
I think there's one left in Alaska. Yeah,
Wow.
shout out Alaska.
Yeah, I think for sure, like, it just kind of, like, we're in, like, a period specifically with film, like, the film business. Like, I
Yeah.
think there's just, like, a period of trying to understand what the new model is. I worked at a production house before my current job. which we did a lot of film and TV like rentals for audio gear, and it's pretty shaky, like the industry as a whole, from both above the line and below the line, because stuff isn't being made the same way it was before. Me and you can go make a film because we know each other from this podcast, and I know people who do whatever, and we can go do that and independently get people to like watch it, and we can do it ourselves and make money off of it ourselves. Versus before, you had to be on TV. You needed that like additional kind of like backing behind you. Whereas now, you can just upload a video on YouTube or TikTok and go viral, and now you're repped and you have a distribution deal. That's
that's true.
And I think also too, like coming out of COVID and then the strikes, it's like, and it's just
strikes.
like, and everybody is just trying to recuperate from those things that happened. Luckily there are the Anoras, there are the Brutalists, like there are those movies that kind of, kind of break through. And, I'm going to see Streetcar Named Desire tomorrow, which I'm excited about. And at least luckily with a production like that, you have somebody like Paul Mescal, who's like such a big deal amongst our generation, who's like driving younger people to go see the theater. So I think you just kind of have to, it's just like a roller coaster. Like there's gonna be ups, there's gonna be downs. I think everybody kind of recognizes that things need to change, and hopefully sooner rather than later that will happen.
Yeah, it will be interesting for sure.
And our letterbox is at Wrap It Up B. So if you need to tell Dylan, hey, wrap it up, B, because he's got a long blend.
I don't shut up. So. Yeah. So.
Oh my god, I mean, same. I have like 17 more questions. Like we could talk all day.
Yeah.
But your letterbox is
Wrap It Up B.
At Wrap It Up B.
Wrap It Up B.
You heard it here first, folks. Everybody.
That's right.
Yeah, because we like to advocate for safe and responsible drinking.
Amazing.
Yeah, no one knows what to do with that.
Yeah.
But
What would you guys say to a kid who's maybe in high school or college that wants to get into the film industry, that wants to work on a TV set, film set, has no idea where to start, no idea what to do?
If you are wanting to work in film and TV as a career, and you don't necessarily care about creative control and like being a director or producer, and like you have that creative control, I would say go to film school, build your connections. You most likely will get a job that will allow you to work in the field. If you don't necessarily take that route, but you want to work in that type of capacity, it's going to be extremely hard for you to do that. So I would say, if you're young and you're interested in pursuing a career in the arts, figure out what it is specifically you want to do that. And if that requires you to go to film school, what you'll get out of film school is connections. What you'll get out of doing stuff on your own is experience. So it's a trade-off between which one you think is more valuable for you in the long run, basically.
That's good advice.
yeah, I would say for me, something I wish I did was, and that I would recommend, like if there are actors that you really love and admire, like see what they did, like where did they go to school? Because a lot of these actors go to schools that, at the end of their term or the end of their studies do showcases. And then these showcases help them get managers and help them get representatives. Yep. This is something that I didn't know. And that's how a lot of these people are able to get, jobs. Because like without representation, you're just not going to get even auditions. In terms of like on-set experience, do background work, like just get on a set, and just see, because when you're background, like I've done background 3 times, you're on set
so
all
much.
day.
Yeah, you're sitting there watching.
You're sitting there watching, like take notes, like
Right.
if you see somebody moving around, just be like, hey, do you guys need a production assistant, like next week or something? Like just try to just talk to anybody that's on the crew that'd be willing to talk to you for like a couple minutes, even if it's just like a quick question.
And I worked on I did an internship where I was a PA on a set for infomercial, like a video production company that did infomercials.
Oh, cool.
And I will say, like, it doesn't matter what the level of the set you are on per se is. Set experience is set experience. You learn how to work a dolly, you learn how to gaff, you learn how to you learn the basics of what a set is like just by being there. So it doesn't matter if like you're working on Severance, or you're working on your friend's short film, or like working for this low level
Right.
production company, like you
You
can.
learn
And
so
honestly,
much.
that's
Yeah.
probably the biggest thing I've heard a lot of my filmmaking heroes say recently is like, don't ignore networking amongst people who are your peers, who are on your level. Because if you try reaching up, like, they're not going to hear you. But if you can reach out to people who are on your level, then you can come up together.
Right.
Exactly.
And,
We
like-
all get old one day. And
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then that day, you'll be called.
Yep,
Yeah,
exactly.
and then someone will be
That's
asking you
exactly it.
like down there for help, and
Yes,
you can
exactly.
give them some
Yeah.
help.
Okay, so I have to ask you guys favorite movies.
Favorite movies.
And
movies.
of course, if someone needs a good movie education, what should they watch?
So, favorite movie, Casino. I'm sticking to it. I would say if anybody needs a crash course on filmmaking 101, how to make a film, the best film, whatever, Citizen Kane.
Ooh.
I was also gonna- yeah.
Citizen Kane is the movie you must watch if you say you like movies.
My favorite film is Goodfellas, so obviously we're big Martin Scorsese guys. Basically, just watch any Martin Scorsese movie,
Yeah,
and
he's also great.
True.
He's just like an encyclopedia of film. Like he will tell you, there's
yeah,
plenty of
there's so
interviews where
much.
he'll talk about, the films that inspire him. But yeah, Citizen Kane is like, that is a film school in and of itself.
Right, yeah, yeah.
Especially because what Orson Welles was doing in that movie had never been done before, and people asked him like, "How did you know you could like cut a hole in the ground and use that to like film your character?" He's like, "Because no one told me I couldn't."
Right.
So it's
And
just
it was
like
all
pure
independently made.
ignorance. Yeah,
Like he had full creative control over all
full
of
creative
that.
control of it.
Amazing.
I mean, Parasite was a really big
Parasite
one
also
for
was
us. God, Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Oh, so good.
Like that's just like that. I could watch that movie every single day and
I
be
love
the
that.
happiest man. If you have DVDs or if you have the availability to, watch movies with audio commentary, because then the directors will. You'll basically be
Interesting.
watching the movie with the director who made it,
Yeah.
and they'll be able to kind of give you insight into how they
Or-
did that or what that day looked like when they shot
Right.
that scene. And
Yeah,
Oh, that's
or
huge.
turning off the sound of movies and just having the subtitles, the closed captions on, and watching it silently, and just watching what
That's so
happens.
interesting. I never would
Yeah.
have thought
Yeah.
to do that.
or doing that with a foreign film and turning off the
The
subtitles.
subtitles, and
like
just-
just watching the
Wow.
action.
Watching the action and the
and
visuals
just trying
of
to
it.
see what you get out of the film that
Yeah,
way.
because if it's well
Yeah.
made, you'll be able to follow the story without understanding what the words are or what's being said.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Yeah.
interesting. I'll have
Yeah.
to do that sometime.
Yeah. Like anything by the Coen brothers, like
Okay.
Fargo, Big Lebowski, No Country for Old Men is a really
Yes.
big
I
one.
think The Dark Knight is also a movie.
The Dark Knight is like
That's
really,
on all the lists.
Yeah, like
yeah,
if-
that's like actually I took a film class in high school. Shout out Mr. Vargas. He showed it. He would teach us like a different lesson throughout the history of cinema, and then would show us a clip from The Dark Knight. And
Oh,
you realize
wow.
that like all of these techniques that had been developed in cinema, Nolan put into
Yeah.
The Dark Knight. So like The Dark Knight
Oh.
also is like a film school in and of itself, but masked as a quite literally
Yeah.
masked as a Batman movie.
Yeah.
Finally, what's some advice to live by, or what words that you guys live by?
Ooh.
Advice for the next generation of.
Life comes at you
film.
pretty fast. If you don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
I would say follow your passion, follow your heart. Like whatever your gift is, whatever your talent is, whatever you desire, like and have a passion for. Regardless if people are telling you, oh, it doesn't pay the bills, it's never gonna happen, whatever. Find a way to do it. If
Yeah.
you do that professionally or if you do it as a hobby, it doesn't matter as long as you go in it with the mindset of I'm walking this, I'm talking this, I'm living this, I am this, and not I want to be that, but you are it and you walk in that. I think that gives you all the confidence you need to actually carry out stuff like starting a podcast in your bedroom and getting here to Times Square and doing it.
Yeah, it's all about mindset.
It's all about
all
mindset.
about- it's all
about
truly
mindset,
about
yeah.
your will to do it, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also just with art in general, it's like, Van Gogh sold one painting in his life.
Right.
And so were you saying, did he become a painter because he sold that one painting, or is he not a painter because he didn't sell more than one painting?
Right.
It's like,
what's success and
like
how
what
do you
is
define
like
it?
what is success? It's like people ask, when I tell people I'm an actor, they're like, oh, what have you done? Like, what's your, what are you in? And it's like nothing that you've seen, but I'm telling you I'm an actor. It's like, why
Right.
don't,
Yeah.
like, why isn't that enough for you?
Yeah.
And
Right.
so, you know, like, just, yeah, like, kind of like what you were saying, just, like, be the thing that you want to be, and
Yeah.
just do it, and if you love it, you'll do it.
Where can we find you guys for Rat Beers, and what do you guys have coming up next? Some exciting news.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, you can follow us on Zeem right here on Zeem.
Yes.
You can also
Stream Zeem.
you can also find us on Spotify, on Apple, wherever you get your podcasts. YouTube as well. As we mentioned, we are on Letterboxd at Wrap It Up B. And yeah, I mean, you know, we shot a short film back in November that we're both very excited
Exciting.
about, that
Yeah.
we're currently editing. Yeah, we're excited.
Thank you guys so much for coming on.
Thanks for having
I'm
us.
so
Thank you.
excited
A lot
for
of
you
fun.
guys, and I love your podcast, and I hope everyone
Thank
else
you.
does too.
Thank
So go and
you.
check it out. You can find My Boss is a Theater Kid as well on Zeem, kind of all the same platforms as y'all.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for coming. Cheers.
Thank you so
you.
much.
Yay, thank you so
Cheers.
much.
Cheers.
Thanks, guys. Bye.